Jess Egelnick. I'm one of two joint negotiating secretaries for the Isle of Man National Education Union.
Well, we haven't spoken directly to the National Education Union, and you are the biggest, it would appear, on the Isle of Man in terms of numbers.
Yeah, we do have over 50% of the, what do you call it, the reported teacher numbers. We do have over 50% of that in our membership.
And people can be a member of two unions if they wish.
Yes, absolutely.
There's 4 unions effectively involved here. Does that complicate things to some extent?
It does, because each union has its own internal policies and procedures and regulations for anything from media releases to who can agree what in negotiations, how ballots have to proceed. So there is a lot of complexity in terms of coordinating those details and being able to work together or being able to be on the same page at the same time. So there is a lot of complexity behind that, even though ultimately our goals are the same and we're working for the same people.
Now, the other 3 unions are now balloting their members for industrial action. At the meeting at Mount Murray, your stance really was to ask your members, if negotiations fail, would you be prepared to strike? Is that correct?
Absolutely. We view industrial action as something that's a last resort if negotiations break down. And at the moment, we view ourselves to be currently in negotiations with the Department of Education. We're waiting for dates from Manx Industrial Relations. Just before Christmas, the unions had all agreed to continue negotiations under the auspices of Manx Industrial Relations. And we're expecting dates to be provided for the beginning to middle of January, so really any time now.
If those negotiations fail or flounder, would you then be considering balloting members?
Absolutely. If we find that process, which is really a second go at the negotiation process, if we find that fails, if the department refuses to negotiate, if we find that they reject clear offers or proposals from us, or if the process is just not achieving anything in the long run, then yes, absolutely, we would be looking at balloting our members for action.
Just finally, if the other 3 unions do walk out in some sort of form of industrial action, whether it's a one-day strike, that will put a lot of pressure on your members, won't it?
It would make for an awkward situation. Our members would need to be very careful that because we are not in the position of taking industrial action, they need to be careful not to breach their contracts, because breaching contract would be a disciplinable offence unless you are in a legal strike position. So while our members may want to support the other unions, they are not in a position to be able to breach their contracts. At the same time, they should not be taking on additional tasks that they don't normally do to make up for the fact that others aren't there. So it's going to be a fine balance with them maintaining their roles while the others are taking action. And then, of course, there's the internal complexity of your colleagues are doing something different to try to achieve the same goal. And there are going to be personal tensions and probably professional tensions in terms of what people are doing to support negotiations and achieve a better pay deal.
It's an awkward situation, that, isn't it?
It will be very awkward. And I suppose it's part of the situation of having multiple unions working at, to different policies and procedures, and having to go with sort of the professional, ethical judgment of what the right situation, what the right action is at the time.
But be in no doubt, I think the message is that your union is in with the other unions in terms of it's not happy with teachers' pay on the island
Absolutely.
at the moment.
Absolutely, we are, and all the unions are working towards a better pay deal. It's a matter of judgment on the procedure at this time. Any U members in no way will be undermining anything by not taking action. We're simply pursuing a slightly different path at this time, sticking with the original negotiation steps, as opposed to looking at industrial action at this time. And our members need to have the confidence to continue along that line, knowing that if we take industrial action, it will be at a later time, but we're still all on the same page. and they can provide that moral support to their colleagues while still pursuing that slightly different path.